Let me break down how a group of 5 to 10 white people got in a room, came up with an idea that they wanted to start a new school district in Baton Rouge. When they couldn't get it, they then decided that they would start their own city. Now, let's be clear. Baton Rouge had the longest desegregation school system lawsuit in the country. So when we talk about white people wanting to start a new school district, it's not just because they want their kids to be educated well. It's really they don't want their kids to go to school with you, at least here in South Louisiana. Let me break it down. This is Norman Browning. He's the chief architect of this whole thing. Wealthy white Louisiana residents win right to form their own city and split from poorer black neighborhoods in landmark court ruling after 10-year battle. The Louisiana Supreme Court on last Friday granted Norman and his cronies a new city, the parish of East Baton Rouge Parish, which let me break down what that means. We have parishes in Louisiana, not counties, so we have a consolidated form of government, which was the request of white citizens 40, 50 years ago when black people were becoming a larger percentage of the population in the city of Baton Rouge. We went to a consolidated form of government. So we have a parish and a city council that is unified, as well as a mayor president. So the mayor of Baton Rouge is the mayor of the city of Baton Rouge and the president of the parish of East Baton Rouge. Now, because of that, all of our money goes into one pot and then we help the whole parish is what it's supposed to be. But every time black people continue to grow in population, white people create new municipalities in this parish because they do not want to be under black leadership. Now they break all of what they did down for you right here on their Facebook page, okay? $800 800 donors, nearly 90% were senior citizens, okay? Over the age of 50, that accounted for 98% of the financial contributions, who remained in EBR parish and fought to create a better future for their children and grandchildren. The incorporators wish to publicly acknowledge the strong financial support from Eddie Risponi and Dan Hurd. More than 5.5 years and $250 million have been lost in establishing a new city. So Eddie Risponi, a man who ran for governor of Louisiana and lost, put up millions of dollars because he was the chief financier of this to help split the city of Baton Rouge. I want to be clear about this. So a group of white people over 50 got 800 of their buddies together, raised some money, found a rich person, and then got 17,000 people to vote in something that impacts all of the people of this community. So let me break the history of it down. They brought an effort to create the city of St. George before 2019. That effort failed because they had some apartment complexes and neighborhoods that had a blacker population in those communities. So they came back. They cut the map smaller. That's why you see all these jagged edges. And then they drew a city that's over 70% white and said, let's try again after they failed the first time. The second time, they win the election with 17,000 people. After winning this election, it's then challenged that they can't afford to run the city. Let's go look at it. So this is from the Supreme Court ruling, and I want to read from the majority opinion. It was a 4-3 vote. So 4 justices, 4 white conservative justices voted in favor of this. 3 justices voted against it. Only 1 black person serves on the Supreme Court in Louisiana. St. George's annual operating cost is $47.81 million, well within the disputed $48 million revenue estimate. So they only supposed to get $48 million every year from the city. And the budget that they have cooked up for themselves comes out to $47.81 million. And the Louisiana Supreme Court says that that's enough money for them to start a new city, not knowing if any other expenses or any other thing is going to come up, and not knowing if they can fully privatize everything that they say they're going to privatize at the cost that they say they're going to privatize. So in essence, they didn't even have to give a full plan to say how they're going to do it. They said, we're going to throw something on the wall. We think they're going to give us $48 million a year, and we're going to privatize all of it and start a new city because we that damn smart. Now, these same people that the city has been approved want $250 million from the city because over the last 4 years that their city has been held up in court, they now say the city of Baton Rouge owes them $50 million for each of those years. Now, the wild part is We've been paying for services to serve that portion of the community all of those years. They didn't get no services stopped. So you want money back for services you received? BS. Let me show you what the Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, a conservative, wrote about the majority opinion. He dissented. The Chief Justice said, this decision in this case achieves a result masquerading as an opinion. Disappointingly, the majority opinion deploys a procedural rules to avoid evaluating whether there has been compliance with the statute that requires full compliance with its provisions. Among the provisions is a requirement that petition for incorporation include listing of public services the municipality corporation proposes to render to the area and a plan for the provisions of these services. As well as will be demonstrated, there is no procedural impediment to the evaluation of the petition for full compliance, and the evidence establishes the petition does not include a plan for provisions of services and therefore is legally deficient. That's from the Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court. He said that what they put on the ballot, in essence, was deficient. It was not enough to say that you can run a city. It wasn't even a clear plan on how you're going to afford to run a city that's almost 100,000 people and will cost you $50 million a year, damn near, and you want to open a school district. I almost cussed, so I stopped. So to be clear, that little orange area is a new 70% white city in East Baton Rouge Parish. A group of 5 to 10 white people got in the room and organized 800 people. They put some money in the pot. They got 17,000 people to vote. And the Louisiana Supreme Court upheld their vote. Doesn't matter if they can afford it. Doesn't matter the impact it has on the rest of the city. Doesn't matter how it impacts the community in our school district. And for all of the people who talking about rainbow coalitions and unity, tell me how we unify with people who tell us that they want to take their toys and go home. They don't even want to pay for the things that we paid for on that side of town. Now, I've been telling y'all forever it was a tale of two cities. I guess I was right. So for all those people who always trying to act like things are not about race, let me also point out that the Louisiana Supreme Court dropped this decision after the state legislature approved that there would be a second Black seat on the Louisiana Supreme Court. You take something from us, we take something from you. Black folks gonna get a new Supreme Court justice on the Louisiana Supreme Court, and the majority by a vote of 4-3 on the Supreme Court says, if you're gonna take one of our justices, we'll approve these white citizens in Baton Rouge to take half your city and $50 million a year. But y'all say organizing and voting doesn't matter. 10 people got in the room, organized 800 people, got 17,000 people to vote, and now we all got to pay the cost. Pay attention.
Yeah, that is
organized
community activists and perennial political candidate Gary Chambers. We have been reaching out to Gary Chambers. We've not yet heard back from him. We've invited him on the program to talk about this, and hopefully we will ultimately hear from Gary Chambers on this issue. But it's an issue that as we know, that's just one example of this fear of a Black planet that is driving so much of this MAGA racism that we see. So we will continue to look at this story. We continue to bring you information, and we will continue to reach out to Gary Chambers. Hopefully we can make that happen, perhaps even with some officials down there in Louisiana as well. But interesting stuff on Let It Be Known this morning. The number of college campuses arrests have climbed above 2,000 nationwide as protests have continued over Israel's assault on Palestine, while President Biden has also blasted the violence during some of the protests. We'll talk about that. It's Teacher Appreciation Week next week, and the Biden administration has announced initiatives to strengthen the teacher profession and teacher salaries. Halle Berry was on Capitol Hill yesterday. Yep, the Halle Berry, the uh, actress that folks fell in love with years and years ago. She was pushing for legislation on menopause, and she got everyone's attention while doing it. We'll talk about Halle Berry today as well. And Airbnb is offering unique experiences to stay in the homes of folks like Prince, Kevin Hart, Doja Cat, and even a museum. We got details on Airbnb's new offering, a special uh, that they're calling an icons. So we'll check that out. And as many of you know, I stopped by to watch and review Alicia Keys's Hell's Kitchen. I'll tell you what I thought of Hell's Kitchen um, today as well. Today actually happens to be uh, World Free Press Day. Imagine that. They got a day for us. But President Biden just at 5:08 this morning released the statement. What is he doing up at 5 in the morning? I guess the thing is like, because I remember my grandmother, she'd go to bed so early, it'd be like 8 o'clock. And then if you at her house, like you got to go to bed or you got to go home. It's like 8 o'clock. And then like 5 in the morning, she's up. And it's like, daggone it, grandma, what you doing up? But that's the life of senior citizens. So that's why probably why Biden was up issuing a press release at 5:08 this morning, in which he says the free press is an essential pillar of democracy, and the women and men worldwide who uphold it do vital work. Journalists go to great lengths to expose corruption, document wars and other urgent world events, bring to light threats to public safety, and bring citizens the information they need to participate fully in their society. Some journalists have given their lives to this work, others have suffered grievous injuries or lost their freedom. Journalism should not be a crime anywhere on earth. On World Press Freedom Day, we honor the bravery and sacrifice of journalists and media workers around the world, risking everything in pursuit of truth. He says this is especially resonant today, as 2023 was one of the deadliest years for journalists in recent memory. One reason for this is the war in Gaza, he says, where far too many journalists, the vast majority of them Palestinian, have been killed. Additionally, over 300 journalists were imprisoned around the world last year, the highest number in decades. In Russia, we have American journalists Evan Gershkovich and also Kermasheva. They've been imprisoned in connection with their work for the Wall Street Journal and for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. And then there's Austin Tice is still being held hostage in Syria after nearly 12 years. On World Press Freedom Day, the president said the United States calls for the immediate and unconditional release of all journalists who have been put behind bars for simply doing their jobs. And we call for the protection of journalists everywhere, including during military operations. Biden goes on to say that his administration will continue to support free and independent media worldwide. We have brought together a coalition of countries to counter the proliferation and misuse of commercial spyware, which is often used to monitor journalists worldwide. And we're taking action to combat crimes against journalists, strengthen security for independent media outlets, and provide legal support for investigative journalists around the world. He says in the coming weeks, he'll be taking executive action in response to the global crackdown on press freedom. Well, it's interesting. Um, his statement goes on and on, but it's really interesting because we know that not a lot. Well, the previous administration, and many people say, "Don't say next, please don't say next." Uh, the previous administration They lock journalists out of the White House. They uh, have vilified journalists. They've called journalists the enemy of the state. And if they do return to power, they have promised to pretty much do away with the free press. So when they say a lot is on the line, everything's on the line, again, everything is on the line. And again, those journalists that are being held, uh, they need to be freed. Need to be freed. And those, the picture you're seeing there are Black press journalists. It's good to see that. Navigating Truth and Fiction, a World Press Freedom Day event. PEN America is doing that on today. So check it out if you get a chance. Now, getting to the protest, now has gone to the point where it is over 2,000 arrests at college protests across the country have been made. The arrests came from at least 60 colleges and institutions participating in protests and encampments in solidarity with the Palestinian cause and calling for their schools to divest from Israel. Some of the latest numbers include 12 arrested at the University of New Hampshire last night, 10 students and two who are not affiliated with the university, all charged with disorderly conduct and trespassing. Four arrested at Yale, two students and two non-students charged with criminal trespass and disorderly conduct. 29 arrested at Stony Brook University shortly after midnight. 22 students, two faculty members, and five others for violating various laws. Um, NYU had a disruption last night as well, and more arrests were made there. This is, as we talked about yesterday, this is going to politically, a lot of folks are going to pay the price for this, including, uh, I, I believe, we believe, New York Mayor Eric Adams. President Biden addressed the protests at the college campuses finally, and he says, "Let me be clear: peaceful protest in America, uh, violent protests is not protected. Peaceful protest is protected." He says it's against the law, these violent protests. Um, he says there's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. He noted that destroying property, vandalism, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, and forcing the cancellation of classes and graduation are not peaceful protests. The president goes on to say, and I quote, threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, he said, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. The president said there should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There's no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. And strong speech, and these students, the overwhelming majority of these demonstrators, want action. And therein lies the president's dilemma. They want action. He did finally come out forcefully, and he made it clear that racism against anyone is wrong. And he did highlight the plight of the Palestinians, and that was for some encouraging. Mike V says the 18 to 39 demographic will be the largest voting bloc in November. They will not forget what has happened and who did it to them when they go to the ballot box. Yeah, these protests have really, really become and will be perhaps, Mike V, the focal point of the 2024 election. For a while there, it appeared that the abortion issue was going to be it. We saw it during the midterms, um, but now this has taken center stage and um, certainly has the legs and the strength to carry through November. So we will definitely see as you see as you saw on your screen there the where protests have been ongoing and where protests have ended. The blue marks or where protests had ended. But as you can see, there are so many from Harvard to Yale, Columbia, Princeton, all those Ivy League schools, University of Minnesota, University North Carolina, Chapel Hill, UT Austin, University of New Mexico, USC, UC Berkeley. It just goes on and on and on as we see a whole list there. In DC, there's George Washington University, all the way into Quebec, Canada, McGill University there. And so it's going on in a lot of places. These protests. And it's enough it should be enough, to, uh, spur action, that's for sure, because it's gotten way out of hand, and as we said, over 2,000 arrests. How about a parent that sends their child to school paying a boatload of money, and then they get a call, say they're under arrest for, some sort of, action related to protesting. And here we go. This what happened yesterday. Power 96 says it's so strange to see so many people are now pro-Jewish, but when the racists marched in Virginia and yelled, "Jews will not replace us," they were quiet. He says, "I don't care about either side." We heard about a lot of that yesterday from our viewers. Um, it's always interesting. It's always interesting. We talked about it yesterday to a great extent. Well, speaking of education, next week is a teacher appreciation week, and the Biden administration has unveiled what they called comprehensive initiatives to bolster the teaching profession and support schools nationwide. The initiatives include calling on states to increase teacher pay, fix public service loan forgiveness, support special education teachers, establish a technical assistance center, provide data on the public service loan forgiveness and increase special education funding. The administration also laid out its mission to return schools to pre pandemic staffing levels. While teacher shortages remain, school staffing has recovered above uh, pre-pandemic levels, including 40% more social workers and 25% more nurses who provide critical support to students and help support teaching and learning. Also, to help observe Appreciation Week yesterday, First Lady Jill Biden, who is a lifelong educator herself, hosted the inaugural Teachers of the Year state dinner at the White House. She honored educators for their excellence in education. Missy Testerman, the 2024 National Teacher of the Year and State Teachers of the Year from across the country were also celebrated for their dedication to the profession. The White House declared that it's strengthening the teaching profession by expanding registered teacher apprentice programs to 34 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico, while also providing an affordable and high quality path for candidates to become teachers in communities nationwide. The plan includes securing about $2.7 billion in investment in teachers in the current fiscal year budget to help states and communities address teacher shortages. So they really want to strengthen, as they say, the uh, teaching profession. And of course, one of the big issues is the salaries. And of course, then you have the school shootings and this idea of some politicians wanting teachers to carry weapons. So the teaching profession is not what it was, you know, even 10 years ago, and certainly not what it was 25 and 30 years ago. And Mike V, see, this is what I love about our crew in the morning. Mike V says that teacher appreciation while banning teachers from teaching Black history in DEI. And that's another part of it. And it's hard enough to get teachers of color. And so that's something else. The lack of competitive pay, the crisis that are school shootings, the banning of certain curriculums like DE&I, like Black history, which is American history. It certainly have done enough to turn teachers and potential teachers away. So it's about the root. You always got to get to the root. Otherwise, you're just putting band-aids on things. And the root of this is, as Mike V points out, and others, you got to do something about this education discrimination, this being able to educate all students, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, et cetera, on you can't teach American history without the transgressions and the human depravity that has come along with American history. Halle Berry was on Capitol Hill yesterday. She joined a group of bipartisan senators to push for legislation that would put $275 million toward research and education around menopause, which is the significant hormone shift women go through in middle age. she she had people uh, laughing hard when she uh, talked about the fact that she been going through menopause. She started yelling about hot flashes and menopause's uh, effect yesterday. So there's legislation um, that she's pushing that calls for the federal government to spend more on clinical trials on menopause, as well as the hormone therapy that is used to treat hot flashes and other symptoms. She's 57 years old now. I always thought I am certainly in the majority, the vast majority. Who always thought, okay, Halle Berry is a very beautiful woman, but I think I've always thought though she's crazy as all outdoors. But she shouted out about menopause. She's on the Capitol. She says it's a word her own doctor told her he was scared to say in front of her. And she says, I'm in menopause, okay? She says the shame has to be taken out of menopause. We have to talk about this very normal part of our life that happens. Our doctors can't even say the word to us, let alone walk us through the journey. In recent months, Halle Berry has been candid about the painful symptoms she experienced while going through perimenopause, which occurs before menopause. When a woman's estrogen level starts dropping, her doctor initially misdiagnosed her with herpes, a sexually transmitted disease. Imagine that. And when he diagnosed her with that. Her and her partner, who she was seeing at the time, both tested, submitted to STD tests, and both tested negative for herpes and all other STDs. So there, the thing was, what's going on here, doc? But it's a running theme. It's a running theme how, when it comes to women, particularly Black women, they're routinely misdiagnosed. And for them to have that's a horrible, horrible misdiagnosis right there. She's going through perimenopause, and they told her, "Oh, you have herpes." Now, why? Why? What evidence did they have? Under a proposal by Democratic Senator Patty Murray of Washington and Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, $125 million would be set aside for clinical trials, public health, and medical research on menopause. The remaining money would help support menopause detection and diagnosis, train doctors on treating menopause, and raising public awareness around it. Murray said that menopause is not a bad word. It's not something to be ashamed of, and it's not something Congress or the federal government should ignore. So the bill is already backed by 17 senators, 3 Republicans, and 13 Democrats, 1 independent, and all of them are women. Men, where are you? This is a serious issue. I have been around women in my family, close friends, and they fanning and it's 12 degrees, but they're fanning. It's like, oh my gosh. So these lawmakers, the women lawmakers, hope that the men in Congress um, will join. Greer says men get menopause. What? How? When? When? I don't. Men get menopause. Maybe that is that why they named it menopause? No, it's menopause for men to pause. When the woman is going through it, you got to pause. Let her have a moment. So they were fan. It's 12 degrees. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. It's free. I'm freezing, and you up there fanning, sweating, and they change breath, cold sweat. It's just terrible. Oh Lord. Gria says, "Careful, she's flashing now. Too much. It's too much." Oh gosh. Well, the legislation has cleared what is typically one of Congress's biggest hurdles, getting bipartisan support. Um, the prospects are still uncertain because it's difficult to get bills through Congress at any time, and the challenges, as we all can see, are compounded now by the divisiveness on the Hill and the dwindling number of days on the legislative calendar before the November election. So, um, thus, you saw Halle Berry go to Capitol Hill yesterday to try and drum up some more support and attention to something that's really, I mean, look, I'm laughing about it, but it's a very serious thing. As I noted, I mean, I've seen it. It's a very serious thing. And so, good job and kudos to Academy Award winner Halle Berry for um, taking such a front and center public stand on this. So good for her. So anybody want to go crazy? Anybody want to bathe where doves cry? Airbnb is inviting customers to stay overnight in the bedroom where the purple one himself composed his breaking tracks. Customers are even invited to enjoy a private tour of the Purple Rain house, which is filled with the icon's keepsakes. An advertisement says, "Listen and dance to special songs. Go crazy for rare Prince tracks. For the first time, celebrate the life and music of our friend and the Revolution's legendary frontman, Prince. Wear your finest purple fits, and when you step into history, feel free to unleash your royal rock star." Yep, Airbnb, the popular online marketplace for lodging and tourism, Experiences announced the launch of a groundbreaking new category called Icons. The category will offer once in a lifetime experiences hosted by renowned figures from music, film, television, arts, sports, and more. Airbnb's co founder and CEO Brian Chesky made the announcement and said that Icons will transport participants into worlds they've only dreamed of inhabiting. He says Icons take you inside worlds that only existed in your imagination until now. As life becomes increasingly digital, we're focused on bringing more magic into the real world. Prince's Home is just one among the initial 11 icons that Airbnb unveiled. Guests can now go VIP with Kevin Hart as the comedian offers an exclusive evening in his members only uh, Coramino Live Lounge featuring tequila tastings and live stand up comedy performance by top tier comedians. Music enthusiasts, they can enjoy uh, joining a living room session with Doja Cat, where the Grammy winner will treat fans to an intimate performance of her favorite songs, including tracks from her latest album. And for animation fans, well, Airbnb offers the opportunity to quote, drift off in the up house, a meticulously crafted replica of the iconic floating home from Disney's beloved film located amidst the stunning red rocks of New Mexico. Additionally, guests can spend the night at the Ferrari Museum and immerse themselves in the world of racing during their stay in Italy. Patrons will sleep on a bed crafted from the same leather as Ferrari seats. They will take a lap with the Ferrari ambassador driver, Mark G, and head to uh, Emilia Romagna's premier race as VIPs. Customers can also live like X-Men as they stay in a 2D animated recreation of Marvel Animation's X Mansion in Westchester, New York. All of this is, and here's the thing. It's all about uh it's all being offered, I should say, through a contest. So it'll be free or the price will be under $100 with winners selected through a profile-based application process. Um, Airbnb says we're not historically known for making anything. We're a platform. And I think it's really great to show what it looks like when you can suddenly step into our vision and imagination. I think it's going to keep Airbnb top of mind. This is just the first batch of Icons experiences. Later, they will announce another batch. Power 96 says Kevin Hart is white folks funny. I will pass on his part. Michelle's asking how much does it cost for the experience? You have to go to Airbnb's site and sign up for it. Many of the experiences they say will be free. I guess travel, you have to take care of the travel. Michelle goes on. I'm going to go back for a second because she says she's ready to be 64 and have yet to have any menopausal symptoms. She's waiting. She's patiently waiting, like twirling your thumbs, Michelle. I don't think you are, Michelle. But it's pretty cool what Airbnb, I guess, is doing. And we'll see what who else comes along because some of these experiences. So we talked about staying in Prince's house. Obviously, Prince is not going to be there. At least you hope he's not there. His remains. Um, ghoulish. Um, but some of these are include the individual, the celebrity themselves. Like Doja Cat is going to do a live living room performance for you. That's pretty awesome. If you're a Doja Cat fan, I don't even know what Doja Cat sings. I know Doja Cat's name and all that stuff and how popular she is, but I don't even know what she sings. So I have to be educated. If I walk past Doja Cat on the street, I wouldn't even recognize her. I don't think. Oh boy. So the other day I got a chance to take in the Alicia Keys's play, musical, Hell's Kitchen, Shanae and I. And it was interesting because see, I like I went to with a whole group of friends to Alicia Keys' concert last year. It was the first time I had seen Alicia Keys perform in concert, and very talented individual. And I say this about a lot of people. I mean, my wife's the fan. I'm just not the fan, but I think she's cool. And so her play, her musical, Hell's Kitchen, it really centers around her. Only it takes you to her 17-year-old self, just 17. What happened in her life when she was 17? Um, And I mean, they say loosely, some say loosely based on her life. Wink, wink. She says it is based on her life. If you really know Alicia Keys, you know that she didn't get her break at 17. She started earlier than that. She started at least 10 years earlier than that when Columbia uh, Records reached out to her. But nonetheless, it gives you insight into uh, her and her mother's relationship. She's the only child of a mother, and it's interesting because I felt like the setting was perfect. It took place first and foremost the theater, the Schubert Theater. It's on 44th Street, closer to the 8th Avenue Inn, and where Alicia Keys' Manhattan Plaza apartments, that was 43rd Street, and as they point out in the play, in the musical, on the 42nd floor. And that's where the story unfolds. And throughout, like I said, my wife's Alicia Keys fan. She knows about Alicia Keys. It'd be like me and like Prince, right? But behind us, the whole play, this woman kept her. It was two women, and one in particular was uh, singing along, shouting, laughing, clapping enthusiastically. And my wife doesn't necessarily look at people that much. Like, I know this person. Well, it turns out that was Alicia Keys' mom sitting directly behind us, making all that noise the whole time. Yeah. She says, "I knew." So it was confirmed as we got up, and as the show ended, and we got up, and the individual that was laughing and joking and playing around with her um, said, something to my wife about enjoying the show. My wife's like, "This is great," and the lady says, "This is." My wife's like, I know." I would never have known. I would never have known. Um, but nonetheless, the show was absolutely incredible. Um, it's something that they developed. It took 12 years to develop this, and Alicia Keys is what 38 years old, something like that. Um, Maybe a couple of years older. She's young, and so to work on this for so long, and so I get the picture where this is not. So folks don't go into it thinking it's an autobiography that's gonna take you from to her life story because it's not. It's about her being 17, but it's just as amazing. Um, she the music, her music, of course, you wonder how it was gonna play with this, and it was perfect. They did an electrifying job. From the moment the lights dim all the way to the final curtain, the exceptional performances and the energy of the show were evident. Um, the musical left little doubt as to why in New York City, busy New York, where people are just so busy and got so much to do, in the middle of a week, a matinee show sold out. It also provided many, many clues and reasons why this musical just earned an impressive 13 Tony Award nominations. It delves into Keys' relationship, as we said. She's played the character's name is Ali, the main character, which is based on Alicia Keys. And it was portrayed with profound depth and charisma by Gianna Harris, who was filling in for Malia Joy Moon, who actually is nominated for by got a Tony nomination for her role as the lead actress here, and to be replaced or at least have Gianna Harris fill in for an award-winning or award-nominated actress. I mean, Gianna Harris was absolutely tremendous. So I guess at some point, because I know Shanae's going to want to see it again, we got to see Malia Joy Moon in that role. But her mother, the role of the mother, the character Jersey, was an absolute powerhouse performance. Shoshana Bean played Jersey. And it was so interesting because, I mean, it was 1990 setting, of course, and Ali is in love with the dude who she shouldn't be in love with because he's older, but she doesn't tell him her age, and he's totally, as you can imagine, totally ticked off when he finds out her age. Her mother actually, they she gets him to come upstairs. They're on the couch, they're making out and doing some things, and the mother catches them. And when the mother says she's 17, he flips out. But it was such a great, and it weaved in seamlessly, weaved in like "Girl on Fire," "Fallen," and songs like that. Uh, the supporting cast, Brandon Victor Dixon was playing Ali's father, who character's name was Davis. Then there was Keisha Lewis. Keisha Lewis plays Miss Liza James, the piano instructor, Ali's piano instructor. And wow, 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 she did a rendition of Authors of Forever. What a voice. So they really, really did it up. They found the right talent. Um, they picked the right music, and it was the setting. And as the curtain falls, the cast starts breaking into that song that you know well, with Alicia Keys and Jay Z, "Empire State of Mind," and it's a performance to see. It's a must see. There's nothing you can't do, that song says. New York, now you're in New York. These streets will make you feel brand new. And every time I go to Manhattan, every time I go to the Big Apple, my favorite city, that's exactly what it does. Big lights that says will inspire you. Hear it for New York, New York, New York. What a show. If you're into musicals, I'm not into musicals. I like plays. That's why I keep referring to this as a play. But this one is to see. It is to see. And if you got a few bucks to spare, go check out Hell's Kitchen. And hey, as the song says, I'm from New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do. That's right. And speaking of New York, Power 96. Speaking of New York, Power 96. Did you happen to catch the game last night? Did you have, oh, while you're on the ship, while you're spending, this is his last night on the ship. He'll be home in time for 5:04 day in New Orleans. Break out the crawfish and moonshine, he says, which I'm sure that's the first thing he's going to do. But I invite you, Power 96, to put aside the moonshine and the crawfish for just a moment. Have yourself a good old New York knish. Y'all New Yorkers know what knishes are. Have yourself a hot dog from the what do we call it? A dirty Frank with some mustard and onions. Have a pizza, slice of pizza. Because last night, in the city of brotherly love, the New York Knicks went into the house of the enemy and broke their hearts, winning 109 to 1. Well, the final score was more than that, but winning the series 4 games to 2. 4 games to 2. Sent Joel Embiid home packing. The Philadelphia 76ers owner did something yesterday before the game that was incredible. That was shameful, I think. Pathetic. Maybe not shameful, but pathetic. So you remember when the Knicks went up to Philly in game 4, the Wells Fargo Arena, the home of the Sixers. It's a playoff game. And they seat about, I want to say about 18, 19,000. Let's just say 20,000. Well, 10,000 of those fans were Knick fans. And they were yelling and screaming. You thought you was at Madison Square Garden. If you close your eyes, you would have thought you was at Madison Square Garden. So yesterday, before game 6, the deciding, what turned out to be the deciding game, the Philadelphia 76ers owner says, we're gonna, because the players were really upset about it. And some fans were upset about it. It was on sports talk radio. Oh, how could the fans let the Knick fans come down here? And they were making excuses. Oh, they just come down here because the tickets are cheaper. Yeah, that's true. Tickets are cheaper at Wells Fargo than at Madison Square Garden. However, how do you allow your arena in a playoff game with a fan base as passionate as the 76ers? And they had some, when you go, you don't get more stars than you do when you go to the Garden. Um, at the Garden game the other night, I mean, you name it, they were there. Cardi B and Offset even showed up together at the Knick game the other night at the Garden. But they had their legends there. And Dr. J, Coach Dawn Staley, Allen Iverson, they had their crew. They had their legends. Of course, the Knicks had a whole host of legends at the Garden the other night. But nonetheless, the Sixers owner decides to go out and buy 2,500 tickets. He bought 2,500 tickets to try and keep Knick fans out of Wells Fargo Arena. It didn't pay off. It didn't work. It didn't work. They were there. They came strong. They came New York strong. Power 96 said the Knicks won. That daggone eclipse has brought out some weird stuff. But yes, indeed, they're going on to the second round. And I want to remind people they're going on without, some will say their best player. I'll say their second best player, but nonetheless, an all star, Julius Randle. They have done all this without their best player, one of their best players, one of their two best players. They've done this without their sniper off the bench, Bogdanovich, who was taken out by the Sixers in what was that, game 4? He had to have surgery. This is a tough team. So the Pacers and Knicks Monday night, Madison Square Garden, game number 1. And they hit their free throws at the end of this game. And Jalen Brunson, you can't say enough. A Villanova product too. 41 points last night, 10 assists. He became just the second player in NBA history to record 35 plus points and 10 plus assists 3 times in a playoff series. The only other player in history to do that, the great Oscar Robertson, 50 plus years ago. Jalen Brunson, yes, David Youngblood was on fire. And yes, Mike V, the Knicks did crack that Liberty Bell. They cracked it, they broke it, and here we are. Round 2 starts Monday night at the world's most famous arena. Hey, that's a way to go into the weekend. That's the perfect way to go into the weekend. And check out at 12 o'clock today. If you guys aren't doing anything, go over to WashingtonInformer.com or Washington Informer's Facebook or YouTube page. I will be sitting in for publisher Denise Rolock Barnes as host of Win TV at noon today. So check us out there at noon today. Yes, David, I'm a happy camper. It's going to be a great, great, relaxing weekend. I'm a happy camper, and hopefully you are too. Thanks for watching. Let it be known, and we will see you next week.